spooky and ASMR. Hello, my spooky friends, and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. I am so happy to see you today, as today I have another true crime ASMR video for you to enjoy. Today we will be diving in to the case of the West Mesa murders. The West Mesa murders are the killings of 11 women whose remains were found buried in 2009 in the desert on the West Mesa of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Several suspects have been named, but none were arrested or charged. While the killings were initially believed to be the work of a serial killer, the involvement of a sex trafficking ring has been suspected. The victims include 15-year-old Jamie Barella and her cousin, 27-year-old Evelyn Salazar, 22-year-old Monica Candelaria, 26-year-old Victoria Chavez, 24-year-old Virginia Cloven, 15-year-old Sylvania Edwards, 32-year-old Cinnamon Elks, 24-year-old Doreen Marquez, 24-year-old Julie Nito, 28-year-old Veronica Romero, and 22-year-old Michelle Valdez and her unborn child. So that is today's video. I will, as always, be adding this case to my true crime ASMR series playlist, and this is where you can find past and future videos in this series. Now, let's get into it. On February 2nd, 2009, a woman walking a dog found a human bone on the West Mesa and reported it to police. As a result of the subsequent police investigation, authorities discovered the remains of 11 women and girls, one woman being pregnant, buried in the area. They were between 15 and 32. Most were Hispanic, and they were involved with drugs and sex work. Solania Edwards, a 15-year-old runaway from Lawton, Oklahoma, was the only African American and the only victim from out of state. Michelle Valdez was 4 months pregnant at the time of her death. Now, the only reason these remains were found were changes that occurred to where these women were buried. Between 2001 and 2005, these women were buried in an arroyo bank on Albuquerque's West Mesa. Now, before we move forward, an arroyo bank is basically a dry stream bed that has been covered by vegetation. Now, satellite imagery was taken between 2003 and 2005, and it shows tire marks and patches of disturbed soil in that area where the remains were recovered. According to satellite photos, the last victims were buried in 2005. By 2006, development had started in the area, and the burial site was disturbed, buried, and plated for residential development. However, due to the housing bubble collapse of 2008, development was halted before the housing could be built over the burial site. People in the neighborhood were complaining of flooding at the plated site, so the developer built a retaining wall to channel stormwater to a retention pond built in the area of the burial site. This caused the exposing of bones to the surface, which it's very lucky that this happened, because these houses were soon going to be burying this site. The assailant for these crimes was dubbed the Bone Collector, and the victim count remains unknown. The remains discovered in 2009 were of women and girls, all who had disappeared between 2001 and 2005. The 11 confirmed victims were as follows. 22-year-old Monica Candelaria. She disappeared on May 15th, 2003. 26-year-old Victoria Chavez, who disappeared on June 5th, 2003. 15-year-old Solania Edwards, who disappeared on August 17th, 2003. 24-year-old Doreen Marquez disappeared on October 10th, 2003. 28-year-old Veronica Romero disappeared on February 14th, 2004. Cousins Jamie Katerina Barella, 15 years old, and 27-year-old Evelyn Maria Salazar, who both disappeared on March 26th, 2004. 24-year-old Virginia Cloven disappeared on April 13th, 2004. 24-year-old Julie Nito disappeared on July 15th, 2004. 32-year-old Cinnamon Elks disappeared on August 20th, 2004. 22-year-old Michelle Valdez, who disappeared on September 22nd, 2004. Now, as I said, the total victim count remains unknown. Prior to 2009, Detective Ida Lopez constructed a list of missing Albuquerque women with ties to prostitution and drug addiction who had gone missing between 2001 and 2006. 10 were later found buried at the West Mesa, although 9 women with similar backgrounds remain missing, raising concern that there might be more victims. This includes 20-year-old Darlene Trujillo, 32-year-old Martha Lucher, 20-year-old Anna Vigil, 22-year-old Felipa Gonzalez, 21-year-old Nina Heron, 19-year-old Jillian Henderson Ortiz, 29-year-old Chantel Waits, 23-year-old Leah Peebles, and Vanessa Reed, who was 24 years old. On December 9th, 2010, Albuquerque police released 6 photos of 7 other unidentified women who may also be linked to West Mesa. Police would not say how or where they had obtained the photos. Some of the women appeared to be unconscious, and many shared the same physical characteristics as the original 11 victims. The following day, the police released an additional photograph of another woman. This woman was subsequently identified by family who reported that she had died of natural causes several years earlier. On December 13th, 2010, Police reported that 2 of the women in the photos had been identified as alive and could have valuable information if they could be located. In June 2018, more bones were found near the site of the burials, but these were later determined to be ancient and not related to the West Mesa murders. Police suspect that the bodies were all buried by the same person or persons and may be the work of a serial killer who has since come to be referred to as the West Mesa Bone Collector. No official suspects have ever been named in connection with the murders. In 2010, a reward of up to $100,000 was being offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible. Over time, a number of men have attracted police attention, though not named as full suspects in connection with the murders. Fred Reynolds was a pimp who knew one of the missing women and reportedly had photos of missing sex workers. He died of natural causes in January 2009. Lorenzo Montoya, a pressman at a local printer, lived less than 3 miles from the burial site. In 2006, there were reportedly dirt trails leading from his trailer park to the site. He had twice been arrested for violent attacks on sex workers and had threatened to kill his girlfriend and bury her in lime. Co-workers said he had talked about killing women and burying them on the West Mesa. In December 2006, Montoya strangled 19-year-old sex worker Sharika Hilt at his trailer and then was shot to death by the teen's boyfriend, Frederick Williams, as Montoya was trying to put her lifeless body into the trunk of his car. At the time, law enforcement said they did not believe this was the first time Montoya had killed, because the crime was too brutal. It would appear the West Mesa killings stopped after his death. While searching Montoya's home, detectives came across a home recording found on Montoya's camera. Only a section of the video has been released to the public. According To police, the first part of the video shows Montoya having sex with an unidentified and possibly dead woman before fading to black and transitioning to show a wall and a bed in the foreground. During this section of the video, noises can be heard that sound like Montoya tearing duct tape from a roll and an opening a garbage bag. It had been theorized that this was Montoya preparing a body for disposal. Screenshots of the unidentified woman have also been released in the hope she can be identified. In December 2006, he had raped the In August 2010, police searched several properties in Joplin, Missouri, associated with local photographer and businessman Ron Irwin in connection with the West Mesa cases. They confiscated tens of thousands of photos from the man, who reportedly used to visit the state fair in Albuquerque. Police confirmed that they had cleared Irwin as a suspect. In December 2010, convicted Colorado serial killer Scott Lee Kimball stated that he was being investigated for the West Mesa murders, but he denied killing the women. In 2014, a breakthrough on a decades-old case caused Albuquerque police to become interested in Joseph Blee as a suspect for the murders. Blee has been dubbed the mid-school rapist for his activities in the 80s. Police say he would often break into the homes of 13 to 15-year-old girls who lived near McKinley Middle School in Albuquerque and rape them. In one case, there was a DNA sample, but the rape test kit was not retested until 2010, eventually linking Blee to the rape. In 2015, Blee was also suspected by police of killing a sex worker. His DNA sample was located on the inner waistband and belt of a sex worker found dead on Central Ave, a notorious street for sex work in the eastern part of the city. In addition, a tree tag from a nursery was found in the area where the West Mesa victims' bodies were buried. It was tracked to a nursery Blee once frequented. Blee had women's underwear and jewelry not belonging to his wife or daughter in his home, and allegedly told a cellmate that he had hired the West Mesa victims, who he called trashy. Blee is serving a 90-year prison sentence after convictions in 2015 on multiple counts of rape against 4 victims, including a 13-year-old girl. Many theories have been constructed on who is responsible for these murders, and some believe a wider conspiracy is responsible. Dirk Duran Gibson, a former University of New Mexico associate professor and author of several books about serial killers, thinks the murders could have been perpetrated by individuals involved in organized crime or biker gangs who hung out on the same strip where the victims worked. Duran would go on to say that their vulnerable lifestyle put them in contact with a lot of nefarious people. Those women knew something that they shouldn't have known. I've come to the conclusion that there were probably only 3 people involved in this crime. There was the boss or bosses and the intermediary and the hitman. Duran Gibson says the case may never be solved for reasons including DNA deterioration, witnesses who won't talk because they're terrified of the perpetrators and distrust in police, and no actual crime scene. It was the ultimate cold case, he explains. Albuquerque Police Department investigator Ida Lopez states that the case is still active. Anyone with information can email ilopez, ILOPEZ, at cabq.gov, or call the tip line at 505-768-2450 or 877-765-8273. The lack of closure in such a massive tragedy continues to confound families and friends. Alright, my spooky friends. That is today's case. This case remains unsolved. What disturbs me the most about this case is that I have not heard of it. This victim count being basically unknown and being so high, and yet I've not heard of it, alarms me. I consider myself pretty active in the true crime community, and I have not heard of this case. I feel like this case has just slipped from the public consciousness. While we obsess over Victorian era murders like Jack the Ripper, these recent victims from the 2000s have been largely forgotten. Their families still wait for answers and closure. The investigation identified several persons of interest, including Lorenzo Montoya, but the case remains unsolved. The killer could still be out there, or may have died without facing justice, or is still roaming in the public. The fact that the killings have apparently stopped since Montoya died and Blee was imprisoned suggests to me that one of them is probably the perpetrator. I'm leaning more towards Montoya personally. That or the actual West Mesa bone killer noticed that the police were on his trail and moved elsewhere to continue these murders. The problem is that there simply isn't enough evidence to pin the murders on either suspect at this point in time. It's all circumstantial. If it was Montoya, then the families will never see justice because he was killed in 2006. If it is Blee, then he's already behind bars and not likely to be released. But there are so many victims in this case, and I'd really bet that there are more that have yet to be uncovered. Developments have been made more recently. In February of 2025, police supported a new DNA bill as this case remained cold. February marked 16 years since the 11 women were found in West Mesa. As families and investigators search for the person responsible, Albuquerque police plan to support a DNA bill that could help solve this crime. Police have stated their prime suspect is Montoya, and since his death, they are unable to confirm his responsibility of this case. They plan to introduce a bill that would allow police to enter DNA from deceased felony suspects into a national database. If this bill is passed, Hartsock said they would be able to test Montoya's DNA. Now, this case is a very sad one. I feel like it's truly been put on the back burner, as most cases of women who are sex workers or just a part of the lower classes. It's pretty disgusting that these cases show that if you are not of a desirable job to law enforcement, like teacher, nurse, or from a family of wealth, these things aren't publicized as much. I mean, you can disagree, but I mean, a victim count unknown and this amount of missing women that they still have no idea where they are. This is a victim count unknown. They had satellite footage showing evidence of pretty sketchy activity, and yet we have nothing else. They have interviewed the families of the confirmed missing women. Jane Perea, whose daughter and daughter's cousin were victims of the murders, continues to seek answers. She states they don't even contact them. The family really hears updates only through the grapevine. Perea's daughter was 15-year-old Jamie Perella and 27-year-old Evelyn Salazar. They were among the people found in the shallow graves. They disappeared in 2004 from the Wilson Middle School Park. Now, these women they're disappearing from school parks. I understand it is difficult with DNA and placing someone here, but I just feel like so much more could be done here. This case just infuriates me. I feel like they're putting all their eggs in one basket about it being Montoya, which I hope it is, and they find an answer. But what if it's not, and you put all this into a bill but it would help with others, so. I feel like once you bring up a woman is in sex work, it's an immediate, oh no, they signed up for this by their job. It's dangerous, but all jobs can be dangerous depending on the area and people. I'm so sick of the stereotype. And I hope and pray for a resolution to this situation. These women deserve justice, and they deserve to be given respect. What you do to make your money within reason does not mean you shouldn't be safe in it. I tried to make sure that I said these women's name more than once because you deserve to hear them. They deserve to have their names heard. So, that is where we will end today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will be putting up a update video of where I've been. Either tomorrow is Monday, so that will be on Tuesday that I will put up the update video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I truly appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Spooky dreams, my friends, and I will see you soon.